Imagine a world where talent doesn't get stuck behind borders, where the brightest minds are not limited by the lines on a map, the outdated systems, or the tired old rules that keep locking in mediocrity. Founders, investors, and leaders have been wrestling with the same brutal question for years: how to build teams that actually move fast, that think differently, that push boundaries. Because it's not just about hiring people, it's about finding the ones who challenge the whole game, who ignite change instead of just running in circles around yesterday's problems. The painful truth is that most leadership struggles come from playing too safe, trusting in predictable teams made of same place, same thinking people, hoping that will deliver breakthrough results. It never does. The status quo is comfortable for everyone except the world changers, the visionaries who feel trapped by slow-moving structures, unable to break free and create what's truly next. Here's the brutal reality: sticking to local, traditional teams is a cage. Today's complex challenges need minds that don't just speak one language, but think in many. They need perspectives born from different struggles, different cultures, different experiences. Leaders who cling to comfort and known entities will find themselves behind the curve because they lack the boldness to embrace what the future demands, the radical synergy that only hyper-global teams can create. If you're tired of seeing your potential star players buried by bureaucracy, blinded by groupthink, weighed down by group loyalties and outdated hierarchies, listen carefully, because the path forward is not where the crowds are gathered. It's at the edges, with those few, fierce, restless rebels who do not fit boxes but shatter them. Imagine teams wired for radical innovation, where distance isn't a barrier but a creative explosion. When your collaborators bring fire from Tokyo, strategic depth from Berlin, grit from Nairobi, and fresh hustle from São Paulo, you don't just get variety. You get a living network of ideas morphing and evolving at a speed that local teams simply can't match. The old world tells us global teams must be complicated, slow, full of miscommunication, and failed promises. It feeds fear and says collaboration across time zones is chaos. But visionary leaders see through this noise. They know the pain of holding back progress, but also the soul-deep satisfaction of unlocking potential that can only happen when diversity of thought fuses with relentless trust and shared mission. But here's the catch. Building hyper-global teams isn't about simply hiring remote workers or patching together people from different countries. It's about a new way of thinking about connection, about unleashing individual sovereignty while binding by purpose, not by geography or protocol. The future belongs to leaders who stop managing borders like chains and start weaving unbreakable links between brilliant, aligned individuals. They adopt radical selectivity, choosing not the many, but the few who burn as fiercely as they do. They craft teams that don't settle for comfort or consensus, but are willing to disrupt themselves to create. They refuse to be cogs in systems built to replicate mediocrity, and instead build networks where every voice, every difference, every unique spark pushes the whole forward. This transformation hits at your core frustrations. You know the pain of meetings where people agree just to agree? Creative sessions turned into endless loops of small ideas, missed opportunities because your team was stuck in one mindset, one culture, one comfort zone. You can feel the costs every day, the talent that leaves, the innovation that stalls, the energy that drains. But what if that pain could flip? What if the solution was found in assembling a team that not only tolerates difference, but embraces it fiercely? A team that holds enough space for wild ideas, for mistakes, for urgency, and for patience all at once. That's the power of hyperglobal teams. They bring you the creativity of contrast, the strength of diversity, and a collective hunger no single place or culture can provide. It starts with rejecting the system that says you must conform, that you must hire local, that you must limit your vision to what's normal. Those limits belong to a world that is already dying, being replaced by something unpredictable, wired for exponential change. Leaders who embrace global teams aren't just filling roles, they are assembling the disruptive cells of the future, the networked forces that defy old borders and outdated hierarchies. They become masters of connection, finding that perfect balance where autonomy meets collaboration, where individual fire blends into collective power. They are not afraid to contest outdated ideas of culture and nationhood. They build beyond that, to a new level of human cooperation based on shared intent over inherited identity. The benefits are staggering. Imagine faster innovation cycles powered by around-the-clock work, ideas refined through multiple perspectives, risk spread and mitigated because your team's resilience is international. Think about talent access on a scale that no local market can offer. Access to minds who think differently, question assumptions, and refuse to settle. Consider the way decision-making improves because your team is less likely to fall victim to biases that plague homogeneous groups. Most importantly, see in your mind's eye the unstoppable momentum of leaders who finally say yes to unlearning old limitations, making space for rarity, complexity, and the kind of unexpected brilliance that shakes foundations. But this kind of leadership demands more than just strategy. It demands courage and commitment. True integration of hyper-global teams is no fad. It's not about dragging in disparate people and hoping for the best. It's about investing relentlessly in building trust across cultures and time zones, using technology as more than a tool but as a lifeline for real conversations, shared values, and clear purpose. It's about leading with empathy, curiosity, and absolute clarity about what each individual brings to the table. Visionary leaders create rituals and frameworks that support autonomy and accountability in equal measure. They refuse to micromanage what can't be managed, but insist on a culture of fierce ownership. In this way, hyper-global teams become more than the sum of their parts. They live, breathe, and reshape industries in ways no siloed team ever could. Every growing pain these leaders feel is a signpost toward transformation. Feeling disconnected from remote members? That's the system begging for new approaches to communication and bonding. Struggling with different work norms? That's the fire that fuels mutual respect and adaptation. Overwhelmed by time zone challenges? That's the call to rethink how work flows, turning time zones from liabilities into assets, spinning a continuous wheel of momentum across the globe. These difficulties are not reasons to retreat. They are invitations to innovate leadership itself, to practice radical selectivity and patient connection, to build trust that can outlast distance and noise. Leaders who dare step into this future understand they are no longer building businesses constrained by old borders and power plays. They are constructing autonomous ecosystems, networks where the exceptional no longer have to hide, where power emerges from aligning the few who burn strongest. In doing this, they break free from loneliness, from the isolation of misunderstood brilliance. They join a movement that refuses the illusion of comfort and mediocrity, choosing instead to shape a world where freedom is not just promised, but practiced every day. This is the network that wins relentlessly. This is the future made real by those bold enough to imagine beyond flags, beyond comfort, beyond everything they thought was safe. For founders, investors, leaders hungry for real impact, the message is clear. If exhaustion from mediocrity and slow progress weighs heavy, the answer is here. Not in staying comfortable or local, but in gathering the rare few, those who challenge convention, who build bridges between continents, who forge teams as relentless and unique as the vision they pursue. This is how you create truly unstoppable momentum. This is how you unleash power that no single country, no single culture could ever dream of containing. This is how visionary leaders are not just surviving, but leading the next wave of human evolution, from isolated players to hyper-global creators. The future belongs to those ready to burn down old assumptions, to rewrite the rules by selecting fiercely, collaborating boldly, and demanding more from themselves and their teams than ever before. It's time to embrace hyper-global teams, not because it's trendy, not because it's easy, but because they are the only way to break free from old chains and imagine a world where exceptional individuals connect, co-create, and rise together. It's time to stop waiting and start becoming the leader who sees beyond borders, who builds beyond limitations, who wins beyond measure. If that fire is inside, it can't be ignored, because the only real prison is the illusion of safety, and the only true freedom lies in the power of the few aligned, unstoppable human beings building the future today.